Look out, here she comes. Woman that I love.
Oh my God, he's smiling at me.
It's too bad she'll never know. Yeah, I can't tell her how I feel, because she has someone who makes her happy. I'm a ghost in these walls, or at least I try to be.
That's the first time I saw him on a cold November day in a seaside village, and I don't know, I think I could actually hear music playing in my brain as he was approaching. There was already a pack of stray dogs by the sea that I had been watching and filming for weeks. There's always strays everywhere here, but he wasn't one of them. That afternoon when I first saw him was the very first time he appeared there, coming from nowhere basically. After scavenging on the beach for a few minutes, he made his way to civilization. And we were the first people he saw. He lingered there for a few moments, weighing his options, trying to see as if he was going to get something from us. And then he looked towards the port, noticed the other dogs, and made his way to them, tail wagging. Unwanted dogs here are usually abandoned in the middle of nowhere, and this was the first time I saw in one of them the absolute happiness of finally reaching a community after wandering alone for who knows how long. I kept filming the pack at the port, and he was now one of them. I watched him as he was gradually trying to integrate. I watched the beginning of what was going to end up becoming one more of the stray dogs of that port, of that village. The making of a stray, right there before my eyes. Stray dogs don't grow in trees, nor are there groups of feral strays that reproduce on their own. They're basically abandoned pets, and as there are no open admission shelters here, the streets take on the role of an open admission shelter. It's basically out of the car and off you go, fend for yourself now. In the beginning, they all look lost and confused, and eventually they make a life for themselves wherever they can. By the time a few months have passed, they look like they belong on the streets, which they don't. I happened to see him right at that moment when his life would go one way or the other. At that moment when they're first abandoned, they're at their most vulnerable, and in a way, they're most rescuable. And I observed for days as he would incorporate and start making sense of what that new life of his would be. I observed him going one direction, while I wanted him to go down a different path. I wanted him in my car and off the streets. He made that very easy, to be honest. Every time I would appear at the port, he would come and greet me as if he was waiting for me. He was so friendly that once someone asked me at the coffee shop if he was my dog. But it wasn't really about me as much as I would like to think so. He would do that to anyone who paid attention to him. The problem was that no one did, except me. A few weeks later, I was getting ready to go back to Athens, and I had no intention of leaving him behind. I found him sitting at the port with the other dogs, and the moment I approached, he acted as if he knew what I was there to do. He followed me to the car because I guess in his mind that's what dogs do. They follow people. And he got into the car, and we spent a couple of days in the cottage with my pack of dogs and rescue dogs and pet cats and stray cats, and then we left for Athens. I had to hire a van for that. Coming back, he stayed in the garden of a friend of mine for what was going to be just a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, until I fostered and rehomed my other rescues. And then, when I did do that, my dog got sick, so 6 months of caring for her, and a few months of mourning after she passed, I managed to finally foster him about a year after his rescue. And that's when I really got to know him better. Actually, no, that's when I got to verify what I had guessed from watching him on the streets. From the moment he stepped foot in the house, it was as if he had been there already. He tolerated my issue-ridden hound's constant growling, and by constant I literally mean constant, as if he had known him forever, like we know old grumpy friends who bark but do not bite. He got my 13-year-old bitch to play as if she was a puppy, and he offered us dozens of Kodak moments from his interaction with the cats. No adult dogs that have lived on the streets ever need potty training. So with him, it was like having the best of two worlds. I got the adult dog's no mess behaviors around the house, and I got the puppy excitement that, combined with his size, made of a cuteness overload experience. I soon got to realize that he's a clown, and clown dogs are never boring. I had a blast fostering him, a blast. He gave me endless "who's a good boy" moments to cherish, endless chances of having a blast with his favorite position to sleep in, endless occasions when I would laugh my ass off because he managed to squeeze his entire 30 kilos in a lapdog position or cat position. I did maybe teach him some commands like how to sit for a treat, but not too many, because with this dog, I just didn't want to spoil the fun. In his freedom of being himself, he was just perfect. And that's how I let him be, himself. You know, I never realized how beautiful this dog was until he started creating minor traffic jams every time I would walk him on the street. There were occasions when cars and motorbikes stopped in the middle of the road and random people jumped off to come pet him. But I don't think it was his beauty people were drawn to. It was something else that shined all over him. He walked around as if he said, "Hey, everybody, hello." Every random stranger was a potential friend. I have fostered countless dogs, and for the first time I witnessed how people react to the absolute epitome of a people's dog. It was stupefying to watch, and I managed to catch maybe 1/10 of it on camera. Ollie, as we named him, is a dog that sees all people as his best friends. He saw me as his best friend that very first time he laid eyes on me. He came towards me tail wagging as if we knew each other very, very well. It's as if he sees the good on everyone, and I think that people mirrored his reaction. That's why everybody was so drawn to him, at least in the city where we were. When he was living as a stray, he was just a stray. And that was an interesting comparison to make, how the exact same behavior coming from him got a totally different response because it came attached to different connotations. Anyway, Ollie is a dog that makes people feel important, but not from a needy perspective. He has this free spirit and into life attitude that is absolved of any attachment and responsibility, and I think that's what's addictive about him. He's like everyone's carefree friend and takes for granted that only good can come out of any interaction with people. He takes anything you can give him, and he's grateful for it. His effect is almost therapeutic, and it's almost proof that goodness is contagious, because it forces people to mirror it. Well, most people anyway. I'm not sure of that, but I never let him suspect the opposite. I let him think that people are good. He's been lucky so far in his life. Why ruin the illusion? From the streets to his first foster place, to my home, to my neighborhood, and all the way to the Netherlands, where he was adopted recently, with his good boy face and his attitude and his happy, trusting life's a party take on life, he was lucky enough to experience the illusion of goodness in people. So let him have that. It's what's gonna keep the puppy in his heart alive forever. I've made a music-only video of his story with what I think is an uplifting song, and sometimes I just watch it and smile. And for a couple of minutes, I steal some of his innocence and make it mine. So I'm leaving you with it. Maybe you can steal some of the innocence too and say good morning to your neighbor for once. Hey, for all you know, he might even say good morning back. We'll call that the Ollie effect.
Down in the dungeon is all we know, where the shining light, we never go into the open. As far as you can see it, wasting there a big bright destiny. Don't you feel like breaking free? Open your eyes, embrace what you see now. Don't you feel like cutting loose? Yeah, cutting loose, cutting loose. I'm alive, I do or die. My mind stretched out on the canopy. My dreams getting bigger than you and me. I'm alive, I do or die. Taking a leap, now I'll never agree. My dreams getting bigger than you and me.
Zit. Goed zo. Waar is die? Oh. Ja. Ja. Zit. Goed zo.